For those of you who don't know me, I'm very shy, and I wouldn't normally stand in the spotlight like this, but I was told I have to stay in the spotlight for the cameras. And when I was asked to recall the story that I'm about to tell you, of course, I couldn't say no because it's just such a great story, I think. This is a butternut sapling. It's a rescue tree. It's part of the story. She is a beauty, isn't she? Okay, so a lot of you in this room know this story because, in fact, you're a part of it. This is a story it's a story of nature and of community activism. It's the story of the Salisbury Garden, a place that I had the great fortune of living as a renter for 16 years of my life between 1991 and 2007. The Salisbury Garden is located a mere block off. The Salisbury Garden was located a mere block off Commercial Drive at the corner of Salisbury and Napier. Two small 1907 workers' bungalows sat in the corner of the garden, which provided ample room for this very, very large garden to grow. It was a double lot. And if you were to stand kitty corner to this garden across the street where the old Glen Hospital once stood, and you faced looking at the garden, you would see what looked like a mini forest that encompassed the entire corner of this block. The Salisbury Garden was a true heritage garden. It was originally planted in the early 1900s by the Greenius family, which is an apt name, I think. It was their rose garden, and I think that some of those rose bushes actually were still living when I lived there, if it's possible that rose bushes can live 100 years. They planted little conifers around the edge of the tree, which by 2007 had grown in, or 2000 had grown into towering giants, and that's where the raccoons nested. Now, this garden was a truly special garden. It was also unique in many different ways, and many of us came to really love and cherish this garden. There was a little corner entranceway or path from Napier Street into the garden, and this path was like a magical portal into another world. Now, imagine walking through this portal, through these laurel bushes, a mere few steps from the street, with its cars and all. And then and to be standing in this wild, lush garden. Chaos of green and flowers, rich garden smells and cool dampness. And when I walked into this garden, I felt an immediate calmness and serenity. And for me, this is what my home felt like living at the Salisbury Garden. So for those of you who were lucky enough to have spent time in this garden, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those of you who did not, you're just going to have to imagine what it felt like being in the country, for this is what it felt like to be in the garden. The big trees that I mentioned and a thick laurel hedge completely enclosed the garden so that you could not even see the street beyond. I felt contained when I was in this garden. And it felt to me like this garden just really wanted to give of its beauty. There was this magnificent butternut tree that sat in the center of the garden, and this is a sapling from that butternut tree. And I remember once I was out counting the plants, the medicinal plants, and counted over 30 types of medicinal plants. Tree frogs occasionally made their home in the garden. It was this wonderful wild sanctuary. Obviously, such a community treasure needed to be shared with others, and my roommates and I always encouraged people to come and visit the garden. And now I'm not exaggerating that. In the time that I lived in this place, I met over 2,000 people. The garden, so many people came and visited the garden. I mean, I'd sometimes look out my bedroom window and I'd see strangers sitting at the picnic table reading. There was an old man, again, someone who I didn't know. I'd see him sitting in an old wooden chair, snoozing. Many homeless men would sleep in underneath the laurel bushes, finding refuge, safety in under these bushes. And I got to know a few of these guys, and one of the guys used to help me work in the garden. We also had a lot of very lively parties and campfires that the fire department never found out about. We would hang lanterns in the trees and create these ethereal evening events. Close to 100 people came and helped build a cob guest house that provided shelter to many friends who were looking for temporary accommodations. And one of my favorite activities was climbing one of the trees. It was a tree that was just a perfect climbing tree. I'd climb up there during the winter storms and just hold on and feel the power of the wind. It was really, really a wonderful experience. But ultimately, the situation did not last, and without notice, the rights to the property were given to a developer intent on clearing the lot for maximum development. So it began that my roommates, some neighbors, and I began a Save the Salisbury Garden campaign, determined to save this very special and unique. You know it, eh? Thank you. We organized block parties and community petitions, and we lobbied all our government officials and received endorsement from all 3 levels of government. Former Councillor Jim Green put forward a motion in council for the city to buy the property, which was unanimously supported. Despite this generous offer from the city, the developer still refused to sell, knowing that he could make far more in profit by building the lot out. Then we were forced to take this fight to the Board of Variance. There we prepared a very thoughtful challenge to the development permit, and about 70 friends and neighbors actually came, and we filled this very dreary City Hall room, and I know some of you were there. And with our expert testimony and our passion, we argued for the importance of this garden, for green space, for heritage, for affordable rental housing, among many other things. And to our astonishment, we won. A vote of 3-1. Astonished because the developer was in his full legal right to develop this property, and we actually, we weren't convinced that we could win this. For a brief moment, it felt like democracy had triumphed. I was on such a high, it felt like I'd won the lottery. The development permit was squashed, and there was no possibility for appeal. And so we celebrated, and we discussed all the possible ideas that we could do with this garden, this new neighborhood garden project. But again, our celebration was cut short when the developer took the issue to the Supreme Court of BC. So again began another year-long battle that we finally lost. The court ruled that the Board of Variance does not have the jurisdiction to hear third-party appeals, meaning that myself as a renter, you, a neighbor, another community member, other than the developer or the landowner, have no rights to appeal to the Board of Variance. So our case unfortunately opened a Pandora's box of planning jurisdiction and decision-making power. We lost the garden was cleared, the trees were cut, the houses were demolished. We shed a lot of tears. It was a huge loss, but I experienced and was part of a community that rose up and took action to save this very, very cherished place. And although this story has a sad ending, the struggle to save the garden, this example of community activism, is such an important reason why I love to live in Grandview Woodlands. The Salisbury Garden. Yeah. And thanks to you, there are many people in this audience, believe it or not, that were down at the Board of Variance that same day. The Salisbury Garden was a place that drew hundreds of people that just wanted to be there. And I learned that these unique pocket gardens, these unique places, these relaxing atmospheres, really work to bring people together and create intimate relationship, especially where there's community building activities, and in a way that impersonal, manicured, large, spacious parks just don't quite achieve. The Salisbury Garden expanded my notion of home to include the importance of nature to my emotional and physical well-being, the importance of community-made space to help build a quality circle of friends and to the beauty that this garden gave. And that's the story. And thank you for keeping its memory alive. And I just want to mention this book, Stories of Grandview Woodland, of which the story that I just told you is in. And this book is a compilation of stories from, close to 100 or so people, I can't remember, of Grandview Woodlands, and it was produced by the group Under One Umbrella. It's a fundraiser for the group. The books are available in the back. There's some great stories in here. Thank you.